Hello and welcome to the On the Apex analysis for the 2026 Barcelona Grand Prix. The way I do this is I go from the bottom of the constructors standings to the top, looking at every team's performance. So starting from the bottom, I'm going to be looking at Cadillac. Obviously, Bottas had quite a bad start to the weekend, crashing out in FP3 due to brake failure. So I'm assuming that the issues that Cadillac had in Monaco have still continued on into Barcelona, and then obviously further retiring in the race. I couldn't find a specific reason as to why he retired, but comment from Valtteri and also team principal of Cadillac, Graham Loudon, basically said that there was an issue and that they retired the car as a precaution. On the other side, at the garage for Perez, not a great weekend. I think he had quite a lonely race, which I think quite a few drivers experienced. He did say on Cadillac's Instagram that this was going to be one of their weaker races, so it wasn't a surprise that they didn't have the best time here. He did also say, though, that they will be bringing updates to Austria, so hopefully we will see further improvements and more pace there. Moving on to the team currently in 10th in the Constructors' Championship, who scored their first point of the F1 season last race. Aston Martin had quite the unfortunate race this week, with it being Fernando Alonso's home race. He started from the pit lane because they made power unit changes, which didn't really make much of a difference, as he would have been starting from 22nd on the grid anyway. He then later went on to retire in the race due to a battery issue. Lance Stroll also retired in the race. He went on the team radio saying that he had gearbox issues and they brought him in, which in the end was the end of his race. So quite the weekend to forget for Aston Martin, coming off the back of their first point. Moving on to Aldi, Nico Hülkenberg actually suffered quite a unique incident during the race. He was following behind Liam Lawson and then ended up running wide and going into the gravel. And he said on Instagram that a stone flew up, hit the fire extinguisher and the ERS kill switch, which in turn shut down his car and ended his race. So not a usual way that we see a driver retire from a race. Gabriel Bortoleto also didn't have a great race. He dropped down from 12th to 17th at the start, but did have quite a good recovery drive. He managed to get back up to P11, so just one position out of the points, but still quite a good recovery from him. Going to the team who currently sits 7th in the Constructors' Championship, Williams, Alex Albon started his 96th race for the team, making him the driver to complete the most races for them. He had quite the chaotic race, in the middle of which his T-Cam, which is the camera that sits just above the car and is provided by F1, came loose and was wobbling about, so the team had to bring him in to fix that. He then came out 10 laps down just to really collect data for the team. There was no real racing opportunity for him, and as he didn't complete more than 90% race distance, he did finish as non-classified. Carlos Sainz moved up from 16th to 12th, but had just said that they didn't have enough pace to fight for the points currently. Regards to the cars being under investigation, you might have heard that at the start of the race, but they said it was going to be looked at afterwards. There were pieces of equipment left by each car at the start of the race, and the result of that has just been that Williams were fined €5,000 for each car, so 10,000 in total. Moving on to Haas, both of the cars struggled quite a bit with tyres and didn't really have a good race pace. Oliver Bearman did retire from 13th, but I could not find a published reason as to why this happened. I think it was just quite a quiet race weekend for both of the drivers, and they just didn't have the pace to really break through the midfield. Going to Racing Bulls, a double points finish for the team. I do think that the cars struggled to keep up with the pace of those around them, so they mostly just held track position and then relied on the retirements and penalties to be able to move up the grid. Moving on to Alpine, who also scored a double points finish, but will move back to the start of the week when Gasly was reinstated for his podium in Monaco. I won't lie, I thought it was quite unexpected. The last time we saw a driver reinstated for a podium was Fernando Alonso in Saudi Arabia in 2023, so I was quite surprised that the FIA actually admitted to making a mistake and they gave back the position, obviously. But we'll move to this race weekend. I think, like many other cars, Alpine struggled quite a bit for pace, but despite that, they still did manage this double points finish. Gasly has scored in every race this year, so he's doing quite well in the car, especially considering that last year the Alpine was not a very competitive car on the grid. Franco Colapinto was dropped down to 10th after he was given a 10-second penalty for failing to slow under single yellow flags. Going to Red Bull, obviously Haddock had quite an unfortunate race start, dropping down 8 places due to wheel spin, but he did manage to get back up to 6th with quite a good recovery drive, so props to him. Max didn't really have the pace to keep up with the faster cars around him, which meant that he just sort of settled in position, but he did benefit from Kimi Antonelli retiring, which promoted him up to 4th. Moving on to McLaren, Lando Norris was actually able to put quite a bit of pressure on Kimi Antonelli in the initial stages of the race, but as his tyres fell off, so did his pace a little bit. He was another driver who benefited from Antonelli's retirement, which promoted him up to 3rd. Oscar Piastri was initially overtaken by Charles Leclerc, which he then ran alone for most of the race, but after Charles Leclerc's retirement, he went back up into 5th. Going to the team who currently sit 2nd in the Constructors' Championship. Again, another mixed weekend for Ferrari. Props to them, they picked the right strategy for Lewis, which was made sure he was able to take his first win for the team. The free-stop strategy really proved superior, and Hamilton once again showed his skill. Charles Leclerc, obviously he crashed in qualifying, but he was able to make it up to 7th during the race, but then his late power steering issue did see him forced to retire, which now makes it 2 races in a row where he has not finished. Going to the team who currently lead the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes, Russell had quite a good start to his weekend, going from pole to lead the race, but unfortunately the 2-stop strategy chosen by Mercedes did just lose out to the 3-stop chosen by Ferrari. We did get to see George and Kimi battle a little bit for 2nd, but then obviously Kimi very quickly had to retire because of his power unit issue. He was given a 5-second penalty for track limits, but as he'd completed more than 90% of the race distance, it was just added to his end time, and he shouldn't have to serve it in Austria. Despite his retirement, he does still lead the Drivers' Championship. And that is it for Barcelona. I will be back in 2 weeks for the Apex analysis of the Austrian Grand Prix.